It was months ago when it happened. I was just reminiscing, reading some old gaming player's guides, and suddenly I heard some muffled sounds close by my house. What sounded like a violent struggle. Jumping off the couch, I went to investigate. I don't know who this is, but God help them, I hope they're all right. I decided to hold on to it, just in case whoever it was still remained in town and needed it back. The hat remained, where I could retrieve it quickly if I needed it. But days, nights, and weeks passed, and its importance gradually dissipated as I went about my life, playing video games, until one day. Okay, main character sitting in the back of a cop car, he's got handcuffs on, and yet somehow this guy is just instantly likable.
In the road!
This other time.
Jesus!
Jesus.
No. Oh, God. What a terrible...
Daddy?
Huh?
You need to be quiet.
What's your name?
I'm Clementine. This is my house.
Oh, she's alive!
I can see you through the window.
Hammer! Hammer! Yes! Ooh. Sorry I had to see that, kiddo.
Let's go. Stay close to me.
What? No, that's... that's just a coincidence. Damn it. That's the right choice.
No! Get him off of me!
It's just like life. We can't have it all.
What's this thing?
Daddy said it's called a salt lick.
Yeah, but don't lick it. It's gross.
Did you lick it?
I don't know.
Clementine is just adorable. I am fully invested now.
Baby, you gotta see this. Food and supplies back here.
This food could save all of us.
What if it's not abandoned? What if it is someone's?
You're right. We shouldn't take this.
The rest of us are taking this stuff.
Look, there's more food in that box.
They have antibiotics. What else do they have?
We have to stay human. Huh? Ah! What?
What happened? Holy
She was bitten? A dream sequence? Oh, you better not make that come true, game.
Squeeze the trigger smoothly and I'll cover your ears. A bit to the right. Aim a little higher.
I did it!
Yeah, you did. Good job.
Yeah. Hopefully, Clem will never have to do this, but it's good to train them young, just in case.
Clementine? 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 Clementine!
Where Where? God damn it, where is she?
Oh, God.
What the hell? Well, there's no blood on it at least. We're okay. We're okay. That doesn't look right.
No. No. No.
That's... Damn it. No! It was Lee's. It was Lee's blood.
Are you crazy? What are you doing out here? It ain't safe.
Oh, what do? I gotta tell the truth, right?
Lee, where's Clementine?
But I need all the help I can get. If I show them... I gotta be honest.
It's mine.
Oh my god.
This is about trying to save him.
Let's do it. Maybe it'll work.
Yes! Lee can live! Telling the truth is gonna get me out of this alive. It's all gonna be okay now.
If I don't live through this, I need you to know you.
This'll work, though. It will. I know it will.
I'll help you. Get up, Lee. The door is right here.
I can't.
You have to.
Damn, I can't move. This is it for me here.
Please, please try to get up.
Get up.
I can't.
Cut it off. I cut it off.
Oh, it's you.
Good to see you, gamers. Whew, yeah, we're still feeling the chills of this game 10 years later, aren't we? How unbelievable is it that Telltale's The Walking Dead is over a decade old already? It just doesn't seem possible. Because its characters and the impact of both choices and its narrative on the player's emotional state remain as potent as the viral infection that began the end of humanity. Whether you reflect on Lee's unflinching resolve to protect Clementine,
I'll kill you!
the unbelievable amount of nuance in character and plot development,
And I think people should know. Not because they deserve to, and not because you're a bad man.
or the rare ability of this game to make you care, actually care about how things turn out. There's few games that are this memorable.
I had a bite victim in the group before.
Gaming has always been there to help us when we're feeling down and out, or to elevate us even further in the good times. So enjoy the best moments, cry at the heartbreak, and laugh at all the blunders in this Gaming Introspection season finale, a hits and misses episode of Telltale's The Walking Dead.
What's your name?
I'm Clementine.
Hi, Clementine. I'm Lee.
Lee and Clementine, voiced by Dave Fennoy and Melissa Hutchison respectively, form an unlikely but instantly lovable duo from the moment they meet each other in the prologue of episode 1. The two have plentiful chemistry that only keeps building, along with some awkward but delightful moments as they get to know each other.
So,
Are you okay?
what? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good.
That's good.
Yeah, I think so. Being good is good.
Lee's a recently fired university professor who has never had kids, but quickly grows very fond of Clem and instantly feels a responsibility as a guardian, a duty that only deepens and gets more serious over the course of the 5 episodes. Let's take a look at some of their most noteworthy moments together.
What's this thing?
Daddy said it's called a salt lick.
Yeah, but don't lick it. It's gross.
Did you lick it?
I don't know.
Isn't this just adorable? I mean, as mature as Clementine is, these moments where she's clearly still just a normal, innocent, and sometimes embarrassed little kid are just hilarious. This leads into Clementine's questioning about Lee's future with kids. And you can tell she knows she's found someone special here. The dairy farm also is home to Lee and Clementine's swing conversation, where you can either paint a picture of realism for Clem or share hope with her that things will get better someday. The Walking Dead's first season is strongest, in large part because it gives the characters and story time to breathe, fleshing out the more light-hearted aspects of humanity before things inevitably and effectively depress us again.
Things have got to get back to normal.
That's good. I hope it's soon.
Yeah, me too.
More games need moments like this. At this point, Clem has put her entire faith in Lee, and she will respond with this sincerity and fondness if you show your humanity. However, if you choose the more practical answer, she's clearly put off by this and responds with much less warmth for the last few lines of dialogue in the episode. You don't want to see a child's faith in humanity disappear so quickly, even given the circumstances. And if you force it out of Clem, she will react accordingly, especially with the bunny hug.
It's not mine.
It's yours now. Hey,
How you doing?
Here's where Lee assumes full-on dad status, having just had a heated argument with Chuck about Clementine's safety, but realizing he's ill-prepared her for apocalypse life. He takes advantage of the relative safety of the train to teach her the necessities of short haircuts, marksmanship, and strategizing. There's also some strong foreshadowing here. After all, why invest so much time in preparing an 8-year-old to take care of herself if you're certain you're going to be around forever, or at least until she's old enough to protect herself?
And if something were to happen to you,
it won't.
if it were, you gotta prepare the girl.
Just enough emphasis to make players worry, which turns out to be for good reason. It's not overdone, but immediately plants the seed of dread.
Before we leave tomorrow, will we have time to look for my parents?
I really hate this scene, but I love it to pieces. You can't give an answer here that won't break down Clementine into tears. If you lie, she'll see right through it, and it becomes even worse.
Sure, we'll look before we leave.
Really? You'll take me to Crawford so we can look? I knew you didn't really mean it.
She's had so much hope. You even talked to her about it on the train.
Where would we even look?
I can remember where they were staying.
Found the name of the hotel that her parents would be at?
Something Mar.
Is this it? The Marsh House?
Yes, that's it!
You've gotten her expectations rising as you develop a rudimentary plan. But you've almost died so many times just getting to Savannah. Your loud train has driven even more walkers into an already infested city, and there's just no way that you can possibly risk going into Zombieland when it's almost undeniable that her parents are gone. And when you explain that hard truth to her, no matter what kind of language you use, and shatter that illusion, she's going to be heartbroken. And regardless of how certain you were that you said the right thing, you will be too. Even though it's a zombie apocalypse game, the surviving humans require the most effort to develop. Because without a cast that we care for, there's really no reason to get invested in such a dreary setting. But these two have you rooting for what small hope there is left, right until the very end. Speaking of which, that entire sequence is legendary, but it's such an epitome of gaming perfection that it deserves its own hit altogether. It's not just Lee and Clementine. Kenny's voice actor, Gavin Hammond, has some moments that just make us forget that these are polygonal computer-coded models. When Duck's at the end of his rope and Kenny's in denial, Lee needs to get the train stopped to deal with it. And man, just listen to Kenny's outburst when Lee struggles to convince him.
Oh, you want a piece of me? Is that it? Just leave me the f alone! I don't need you, and Duck doesn't need you! You don't even have a child! You don't know what this is like! You're not helping my family! You're not helping Clementine! You're not helping anybody!
The delivery is overwhelming. The grief and pain in Kenny's voice attack you harder than any of his actual punches could. He can also show exhaustion.
How are you?
I don't know how to answer that.
Compassion and acknowledgement.
You've always been there for me, Lee. Always had my back when it mattered. What kind of friend would I be if I wasn't there for you now?
Or scorn and resentment.
You're gonna talk to me about family. You're lucky I don't knock you in your ass right now, you selfish son of a. You can do whatever.
Oh, it's remarkable. Love or hate Kenny, and I know there's people on both camps, you gotta give props to his portrayal.
Lee, I'm fine. I've got this. Give me your hand.
The final antagonist, listed only as the Stranger, isn't physically intimidating, yet he has a calm, calculating, but psychopathic intensity to his monologuing.
You're a monster. You're a murderer and a thief. And I'm gonna hurt you so bad.
It's unsettling and motivates the player to make sure that no matter what, you can't leave Clem with this deranged lunatic who insists on keeping the walker head of his dead wife in a bowling bag to talk to now and then. Now, there's some duds in here too. Duck's not only a typically annoying, dumb kid personality.
I'm the foreman. Lift with your back, Sean.
He has a voice to match that. It's somehow both shrill and tough to make out.
Dad! Dad! Come on! Let's eat! My shoulder? It's all like pow, pow, pow. I thought Super Dinosaur was toast.
The game tries to give him a moment in the spotlight with this chalk mystery, and this prompt is one of the game's best. But it doesn't feel earned, because before and after this, Doug is just a bit player and plot device. Doug's voice actor falls flat too. He just sounds stuffy and not really in the same ballpark of talent whenever he talks.
I'm the one keeping this group going!
We can sort all this out, all right? We can sort this out!
Which doesn't help how unpopular this character is compared to Carly, who speaks with intensity, nuance, and precision. It's no wonder why more people saved her compared to Doug. Well, aside from the fact that a majority of players were heterosexual males. Also, Telltale obviously didn't have a clue who was going to do the main voiceover for the Stranger villain in the finale segment, Because the guy on the walkie-talkie, before you actually meet him, sounds absolutely nothing like his cold and calculated final version. You hear him at first, and it sounds like he's a local country boy who's had a bit too much to drink.
Can't wait for you to get to Savannah, Clementine. I got your parents right here, and you be sure to find me.
Then, he suddenly becomes this.
The more I heard about the things you did and the danger she was in, our plan changed.
But I digress. From the main duo to the supporting cast like Krista and Omid, you feel in tune with each of them, which makes it all the more engaging to play through.
So, yeah. Hi. Again.
It's true that you can finish each of the 5 episodes of the game in 2 hours, maybe 3 tops, even if you're examining everything and taking every opportunity to chat with people. But each and every one of those conversations can be explored in a multitude of ways, depending on Lee's choices. Especially in pivotal moments, they build on themselves and create simultaneous moments of bonding and seething disdain among the core group of survivors. Put simply, you can't please everyone. Particularly in the first game, there's a real sense of tension between 2 of the main leaders, being Kenny and Lily, and you have 2 episodes to join one camp or the other. You tend to attach yourself either to Kenny's family man persona, acknowledging his get her done stance, despite how gruff he can be, or you sympathize with Lily, whose leadership is more focused on benefiting the collective group, and whose cardiac-prone dad is the only family she has left. Larry, he's quite a pain in the ass, and never really changes this persona, even if you put in the effort.
Son of a...
No!
Lily would want you to keep your strength up.
That girl needs to quit worrying about me so much.
That first character you save in episode 1 will continue until halfway through episode 3, and they each have their own unique traits, lines, and effects on the gameplay. Carly becomes instrumental to Lee working through his criminal baggage, offering the player the ability to confess this knowledge to those they deem worthy and trusting enough to hear it, which can really put a chink in Lily's outburst when she tries to dissuade the group to focus on Lee's past in her desperate attempt to stay, after intentionally or accidentally murdering the other party member.
Lily, we can't have you with us.
I'm a murderer? You've had Lee with you this whole time.
I don't care what he did before.
You know?
Yeah, he told me. I don't give a
If Doug's there, Lee doesn't have that sounding board. In fact, with Larry killed in the previous episode, there's no one besides Lee himself who knows his own past, so he doesn't get to mentioning it. And when Lily drops the bomb later, Kenny is shocked and the relationship takes a hit. The player is left helpless.
He killed someone before all of this. He was a convicted murderer.
Is that true, Lee?
Yes.
Hell, were you ever gonna get around to telling me that? You got a little girl with you.
As the episodes continue, you really see the results. Been a prick to Lily all this time? She'll watch Lee almost get electrocuted and do nothing to help as he struggles to not get thrown into a fence.
Lily, help! Is he breathing at all?
No, I don't think so.
Try and revive her dad though, and she'll take a shot at Andy to save you, even if she sees Lee execute that psychotic Danny guy. And the consequences are night and day with Kenny too. Compare these 2 quotes.
I'm not letting somebody else get eaten today. Especially a good friend. I'm not letting somebody else get eaten today. Even if he is an asshole.
Even minor dialogue choices invoke more dialogue trees that provide surprising info. You can learn that Lee has a pet fish in his university office from Herschel. You can get info on Catch's career if you ask her about it.
I'm a veterinarian back in Fort Lauderdale.
Bring Clementine to Crawford, and you get a cute student-teacher conversation that both dream about happening for real again once they reach safety. If you get past Chuck's morbid prediction about Clem and chat him up, he'll reveal how long it's been since he's seen any of his family. And Lee can admit his romantic feelings towards Carly, even after her shocking departure.
Are you okay? I know you were fond of her.
I was. This isn't any time for, romance, but yeah. I was, fond of her, yeah.
It's astonishing how many different avenues conversations can go, and I'm willing to bet that none of us have experienced every single thread of it. Even us diehard fans who've played through it many more times. Even choosing silence creates interesting reactions.
Hello? Did they get you?
I'm sorry. I'm here.
And can even get you killed.
Got our people out there. The hell are you?
Stall him.
What?
Just keep him talking. Do whatever it takes to stop him pulling the trigger.
You people think this is a joke?
Another thing you can do is rewind the game once you've beaten it, instead of having to go right from the start again. Just go back to a major choice in episode 3, if you're super curious about whether or not saving Omid or Krista really made a huge difference. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The developers make it really easy for completionists or obsessive-compulsive types like me to see everything the game has to offer. There's subtle but noteworthy differences across a wide variety of predicaments. Your own internal values, instincts, even your reflexes lead Lee to handle conflict in unique ways. How much do you value your own state of survival? And how do the scales balance out when you weigh it against putting down a horrified, panicked girl who has had her fate sealed by this horde of walkers? Kenny's theory makes perfect sense from a practical point of view. It results in double the time to scrape together medical supplies. But your moral conscience is yelling at you to put the woman out of her misery so she doesn't have to suffer. And there's next to no time to choose, so it's gotta be fast. When trying to convince Kenny to stop the train and deal with Doug's fading life, you can carefully choose responses that will placate him, gradually guiding him through his trauma and allowing him to feel some previously unfindable sense of self-forgiveness that's manifested from previous heartbreak, like when Sean Green died at the farm. And thus, the scene plays out as peacefully as the awful circumstances possibly could allow.
That's not what went down. You looked out for your kid. Bad thing happened to someone else's. Stop the train, man.
But maybe you don't believe in that approach. Kenny isn't easily conducive to reason, so you may reasonably take an aggressive method, using forceful language and eventually your fists to subdue Kenny and give him no other choice but to relinquish his rage. And if you fail at both of these efforts, Kenny seals Lee out of the cab completely, wherein Lee walks back to the passenger's boxcar, finding everyone dead, and a suddenly reanimated Duck, who shocks Lee so much that they both go flying off the train and die! Damn! Molly's fight sequence plays out very differently depending on whether or not you successfully time your prompts correctly. And this one is actually the toughest to perform in the game. You need quick reactions to get the upper hand, and the dialogue makes her very cautious.
Mind if I get up?
Slowly.
Instead of if you predictably lose to her close quarters finesse, where she berates Lee and Kenny's combat abilities once Clementine shows up to defuse the tension.
No!
I told you we didn't need any help.
Really? Because if it weren't for her showing up when she did, I would have beaten your brains out.
You can act aggressive and threateningly in certain situations, some of which will simply get you killed.
You don't have the guts, lady.
You don't have the guts.
I died! I didn't think she'd actually do it. But other times are a valid way into intimidating a physically weaker opponent and bullying your way to get Lee a more favorable survival position.
You threatening me, old man? Because you're not gonna like how that goes. Put the gun down before you really make me mad.
He's bluffing.
You think so? Try me.
But this also has some side effects to it. Bree, a member of the group you threatened, absolutely closes herself off to you if that's how you chose to go about things.
No offense, but I'm not really looking for conversation.
What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. I just don't particularly like you.
If you come across honest and genuine, though, she will open up about her experience as a cancer survivor and the tragedy she faced at Crawford, making you see her in a very sympathetic light, instead of just a cranky woman that she might have appeared to be before. Considering she's only in half of one episode, that's a testament to how realistic of a standard Telltale adhered to when crafting these relationships. The beginning of No Time Left exemplifies the cumulative buildup of your Lee's preferences and decisions. If you were generally an honest, decent person who didn't do crap like lie and conceal your bite wound, if you tried to at least make things work with Kenny sometimes, despite his bullheaded, commandeering nature, and if you gave a dumb teenager an upteenth chance to prove himself.
That's not how it is, Ben. I need you to stay here and keep an eye on Clementine.
I can do that.
You could end up with as many as 4 people supporting your quest to rescue Clementine.
Bitten or not, I'm with you to the end. You can count on me.
But if you showed utter disdain towards Kenny, such as supporting Larry's paranoid thought to throw Duck out of the drugstore,
We toss him out and save the group.
Lee? What the man?
What other choice is there?
or just show that you have no idea what you're doing constantly to Krista.
I hope you know what you're doing with her.
I don't.
Then she's more impressive than I thought.
You may watch as Lee lurches into that morgue all alone, and this in turn compounds his future decisions a lot. You want to chop Lee's arm off in a desperate attempt to survive. Feasible, so you may have Krista and company do that for you, which is still awful. But imagine choosing to do this on your own, no anesthetic and no one to help, hastily wrapping this tourniquet over your stumpy remains of your left arm before passing out from blood loss. Damn.
The Walking Dead is amazingly written. There's nuanced mysteries and subtle foreshadowing that are strewn throughout the narrative, and this makes replaying it a new adventure each time. This is complemented by some unpredictable surprises. Let's walk through the key mysteries and shock values of the first season.
Lee's past. This is distinct because it never does get 100% clarity, but if you pick the appropriate dialogue choices, especially with Carly in episode 1 and the stranger in episode 5, you really get a decent look into exactly what went on with Lee. After all, the opening sees him being sent to prison for murder, and yet you can't really see any murderous tendencies being displayed from him throughout the game, which aren't player decided. Even when he does off someone, it's usually in self-defense, or because they're an absolute sicko.
My girl here.
You really like that gun.
What's not to like? Times like these, a 243 will keep you warmer at night than any lady I ever known.
His marriage, though, is very ambiguous. You don't even find out the name of his former wife, though you do get one single creepy dream sequence with her voice as Lee tosses and turns in Herschel Green's barn.
I love you, baby.
This is never really elaborated upon, but regarding the man she's cheated with, Lee has the choice to tell Clementine about how bad the man was, and that he hurt him.
Why are you asking me that?
That lady said you killed someone. Was that because he was one of the things trying to eat you?
No, he wasn't.
Oh. Was he bad?
He was.
So he's admitting the death part, but it's still very vague about how everything happened. It's extrapolated even more during the stranger's interrogation.
Have you ever hurt somebody you care about?
Yes, of course.
Who?
My wife.
Clementine said she wasn't with you.
I heard her a long time ago.
How?
She traveled for work. I didn't like that. I wanted a family.
A reasonable thing to want.
So we fought, and it made my biggest fear come true. Got sick one day on my way to class. Canceled it and went home. Found her there with someone else. Killed him. I was mad at her for so long, and I can't imagine how much pain she felt.
So, it's kind of an accident, but not really? It's strange. Lee's past is given so many fill-in-the-blank moments that players can make an educated guess about, but it never becomes complete. Maybe that's the whole point, though, the ambiguity. I mean, who people were in the past doesn't matter one iota once the dead start walking.
Brenda's death in episode 2. Despite the picturesque and tranquil exterior of the farmyard, you find out the St. Johns are creepy cannibals, and Lee has a standoff with Brenda, holding Katja hostage. You expect either that Lee will talk her out of it and she'll maybe run off somewhere, or that the walkers will make her rethink what's really important. But, in an ironic twist of fate, Lee's friend Mark, who had his legs cut off by Brenda earlier, stretches out beyond the stairs to kill the tainted woman.
I did notice that walker thing up there, but I didn't think he was going to lash out at Brenda the way he did.
It serves her right, don't get me wrong, and it was nice to see Mark get justice, even after his death. Foreshadowing is used well in this episode in general. Quotes like this from Mark come back in shockingly effective ways.
He's a walking pile driver. I know I wouldn't want to be stuck in a room with him.
You're worse than the walkers!
Dad, please!
But in a few minutes, we're gonna be stuck in a locked room with a 6'4", 300-pound, seriously pissed off dead guy.
Maybe you shouldn't have opened the door.
Yeah, except then I'd probably be food by now. Trust me, I have no regrets.
Don't eat dinner.
It's applied to Danny as well. Despite his fairly normal opening pleasantries, evidence builds quickly to highlight his shady dealings, like this reaction to Lee's discovery of a video camera that may incriminate him.
What do you find?
A video camera.
Let me see that.
Battery's dead, though.
Oh, good.
Once you look at him stroking his rifle like a creep and monologuing like a supervillain in a rainstorm, you know there's no true goodness in this disturbed man.
Daddy had an order of things. You knew what he was supposed to be doing. It's all just word.
Who wants some? I dare some dead asshole to try to cross my fence tonight.
Katja's death. Throughout the first 3 episodes, this woman seemed to be the moral compass of the group, and also one with the most level head. She retained a sense of optimism, as evidenced when introducing herself to Lee, maintaining the hope that things would get back to normal. Things, of course, get worse instead. But she still tried her best to save a random stranger brought back to their home base. Instead of panicking after Duck's bit, she deliberates and does as best she can.
I'm going to keep an eye on him and see what I can do from a medical perspective.
And when the worst fate imaginable rears its head, she looks prepared to do what must be done. So when Katja takes a bitten duck out to the woods to put him out of his misery, it's a real surprise that she just offs herself. And depending on your choices, does it even with her own husband walking alongside her.
Things are... What the...
No!
This, to me, is a good example of still waters running deep. Katja obviously was dealing with a ton of emotional turmoil that was bubbling inside her when she came to the realization that her own son's life was ending in this reprehensible way.
We don't expect too many characters to survive a season in any Walking Dead scenario, but this came as a shock to many, myself included, especially since this meant 2 members of the group were offed within seconds of each other, and 3 since Lily gets left on the road or steals the RV. The middle of the season takes a huge U-turn here, making Kenny devolve into a depressive, borderline insane man who's lost his entire family and is constantly one nudge away from exploding. Speaking of Kenny, Kenny's final moments. These climactic events strike a chord, even though the logic behind both of them is pretty sketchy, as is the actual result in terms of believability, which we'll touch on during the upcoming misses. Kenny's sacrifices are emotional, albeit rushed moments where the music swells. And the stakes are raised so high. Not to mention, he's in an unwinnable situation with both. There's just so much at stake here. Ben's as good as dead by the time you get to him, which sandwiches Kenny between two herds of walkers. And Krista is isolated in this building with nothing to stand on to get out. So Kenny going down there is pretty much a death sentence. It's also remarkable how ambiguous they made his fate in both of these.
Go! I'll be...
The stakes are so high in this episode. You know you're on borrowed time, and you have to get to Clementine because that's all Lee has left to do. It's a very fast-paced episode, easily the shortest, but what's there is moving with the momentum of a turbocharged roller coaster.
You ruined that dude's face.
You've got the gut-wrenching amputation scene in the opening moments, if you choose it. You've got the last stand to defend the house you found in episode 4. Kenny's emotional sacrifice scenes, and the gradual weakening of Lee's physical state.
Oh, and then you have this.
When you have a character as likable as Lee becomes through the series, he totally deserves to have this badass scene where he unrealistically becomes more powerful than a horde of walkers. The best is that Lee can even be bitten again here. But he just shrugs it off because he knows he's about to die anyway. And he keeps kicking ass. It's the last moment you'll feel strong, because after this, you likely need Clem's help in defeating the man who, in all seriousness, caused Lee to be bit, which in turn, Lee may have caused himself if you helped loot his station wagon in episode 2.
I'll admit, this concluding final boss, if you want to call it that, is very convenient.
I mean, he's one of the only living people left in the entire city, and he just happened to be the random guy from a long time ago and from far away that was robbed by your group, and just happened to have a walkie-talkie to communicate with Clementine, survive for months alone while tailing Lee's group, and get to the exact hotel in a giant city overrun with walkers at the same time Lee did, all just in the name of spiteful revenge?
I was coming for the others. For revenge.
Savannah's population is roughly, what, 500,000 people? So you're gonna go into this infested city on your own, the only safe spots of which had been run by tyrannical overlords, risk the rest of your life, and all to get back at a man who, according to most players' decisions, did nothing to hurt you.
After I found Clementine on my radio, I wasn't even mad at you. I was coming for the others.
Go after Kenny then! He's the bastard here, not Lee!
After everything, he's still a bastard, you know, Ken?
Been hearing that my whole life, Doc.
Still, the confrontation does open up some very worthwhile exposition, as I mentioned earlier. It's a comprehensive reflection on your major choices and whether or not you do them differently.
I couldn't leave her at the house alone.
She would have been better off!
And it all leads up to the most emotional farewell in gaming history. This goodbye is honestly on a scale comparable with Aerith's death in Final Fantasy VII. It's that memorable and devastating. Lee went through such an ordeal to get here, with his climactic fighting scene giving this university professor turned survivor the most badass aura on par with the more godlike heroes of RPG games. But he finally just can't take it, passing out once more as they initially wade through the horde of walkers and find Clementine's undead parents.
Lee, wake up! Please don't be dead.
I'm astonished he's able to wake up this one final time, to be honest. Particularly if you don't remove his arm. You see Lee collapse time and time again as he wills his way through the nightmare of Savannah. You can see the fatigue and sickness in his eyes as he desperately tries to make one last escape with Clem.
Get that door open.
I can't!
Do it!
How did he do it? The infection should have killed Lee right then and there. But somehow, whatever emergency adrenaline was left in his body woke him up so that he could talk to Clementine one last time, impart some valuable last-minute life lessons, and have some closure with the most important person he'd ever meet.
Seeing Lee struggle across the jewelry counter, and then you, the player, feverishly tapping X, willing to see him find that last push needed to escape.
I can't.
You have to!
Twice, only to know it's not happening. Our hearts are bleeding here. Even immobilized, Lee does his best. He encourages Clem, scouts the room for a weapon, teaches her how to dispatch the walker officer.
Just be careful. Move around the side and jump away if he gets close.
And somehow, he defies the infection one last time to swat this baseball bat over to Clementine, witnessing her kill one for what was possibly the first time.
Lee and Clementine's final conversation is that tipping point where the most masculine of men bawled their eyes out. And it's no wonder.
There's only one thing you can do. You know that. You have to shoot me, honey.
I can't imagine Clementine's rush of negative emotions here. She's been asked to shoot the closest thing she has left to a father 5 minutes after finding out that both of her parents were certainly dead.
She needs to persevere alone, hoping against all odds that she'll escape the city, with no guarantee of finding anyone she knows or trusts for the rest of her life, which may very well be short. Her needing to do all this with Lee being so helpless renders the player speechless, but not Clem. She begs and pleads with Lee because she really doesn't want to do this, but love makes her do what's right.
You can do it. I know you can.
Okay, Lee. I can do it. I can.
I'll miss you.
Me too.
And if you chose to leave Lee there while you scuttle off to freedom, leaving him abandoned to reanimate in this random jewelry store where no one's going to go in or out probably for years, I'm sorry, but I just don't see your point of view.
Okay, well, it's not broken.
Anyone who has helped, healed, persevered, protected, taught, and sacrificed as much as Lee in the hopes that Clementine will be able to make it deserves that eternal rest, not eternal hell. This episode is just beautiful, and you can tell it impacted the actors just as much.
That exhaled sigh you hear after Clementine shoots is commonly thought to just be Lee's final breath. But in actuality, this was actor Dave Fennoy's emotions pouring out as he concluded Lee's story after delivering that final line. The feels are just too much.
Once you end his suffering and the writers put Clementine at the helm, you're given this beautiful panoramic shot, giving you a hint at the wide open possibilities and anxious tension that are in store for the series.
Okay, aim a little bit more to the left. Okay, a little higher.
To start off, we'll examine just how ridiculous some of the set pieces are, featuring some protagonist actions and intelligence levels that are incomprehensible, even in the reality-stretched world of The Walking Dead.
In Long Road Ahead, upon meeting Omid and Krista and cutting off the tanker, Kenny starts the train again to escape, with Lee and Omid still up on the overpass. Their only chance is to jump to the freighter car, and after Omid does this, or gets pushed if you're an especially cruel prick.
Have it your way.
I will! You son of a...
He bounces off of the roof and tumbles to the ground. And you're thinking, well, the episode has to end with another death. That's pretty dumb that Lee ended up being the one to cause it to such a friendly person. But then, you look out of the freighter car door and Omid's stumbling along with one leg keeping up to the train. A diesel-electric locomotive.
How fast could you run while dragging one leg behind you as a result of some catastrophic injury? Yeah, that's not happening.
Nothing about this makes any sense. Look at this. He's like Sonic the Hedgehog sprinting past his girlfriend on one leg. Jesus Murphy, that's hilariously dumb. Just prior to this, Lee is trying to get a map to get the layout of Savannah for when the train arrives. It's right there. This should be the simplest thing in the world. But because Kenny, who's drowning in sorrow and remorse over the death of his son, is planted firmly in the seat, Lee can't do it. He's helpless. And these responses when you try. Good Lord.
Are there any maps up here?
I don't know.
Mind if I get by you for a second, Kenny?
Can you just leave me alone?
Do you mind if I look in there for a second?
I really wish you'd just leave me alone.
You can attempt 3 different times, but still fail to get Kenny to move. Couldn't Lee just stretch a little bit and get them? No. Instead, you need to find a homeless guy whose only possession, of course, is whiskey, chat with him until he's cheery enough to recommend it to anyone else who needs a drink, and then finally you can get Kenny out of the way. And then observe how Lee acquires the map. He bends over gingerly, as if Kenny was still there and he was trying to get it without disturbing him.
The entire rationale is horrifyingly morbid. Let's go give this depressed man, who has recently lost almost all the will to live, who is in charge of driving the train, some hard liquor. Yeah, that'll be a really good idea. That map is definitely worth all this when we're in a fiery train wreck and blowing up.
How about this battery? Molly and Lee are ambushed by this alarm. Lee gets the battery out of the car, and Molly's like, put it in here, I'll carry it. I'm not too smart, but I do know that a battery, even a small one for a car, weighs at least 30 pounds. Simply leaping up to this skylight would be quite a feat. But no, then Molly, who weighs maybe 120 pounds, leans down, catches the 180-pound Lee with a 30-pound battery on her back, and heaves him up like a feather. Then she sprints and jumps 12 feet across a gap in a death-defying leap between buildings. It'd be pretty embarrassing if Lee couldn't make it himself unencumbered after witnessing this feat.
But, that's just small potatoes. It exaggerates the capabilities of humans a little too much, but it's not an indictment on the character design themselves. But balancing out these superhuman feats are brain-bustingly bad, bewildering blunders. Yep. You know what I'm talking about.
It's Carly's battery conundrum. We've got a woman, a radio that doesn't work, and a puzzle to solve. The first pathetic display is how Carly can't figure out why the radio doesn't turn on. She is completely baffled and never once thought to turn the thing over to see if it even had batteries in it. And even when you find this out, she's clueless about said batteries. Honestly, one of the lines of dialogue is,
I wouldn't even really know what to look for.
Are you goddamn kidding me? What else would you be looking for? Who goes through 20-some years of their life without any knowledge of batteries? They come in many different shapes and sizes and are used to power a variety of portable electronics.
Also, this game is set in the comic universe, and in the same time as when the outbreak started in the comics, which is in the early 2000s. So, Carly grew up in the 80s and 90s.
When batteries like these were far more common than they are now. There is absolutely no excuse for this. Then she goes,
Yeah, I can't figure it out.
Let me have a look at that thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, fine. Maybe the unit is just fried then. We got her the batteries, so... What? Look! Look!
The positive and negative symbols are right there! It couldn't be more clearly marked!
How does she put them in backwards? It's amazing she didn't try any other combinations. What? How? How is someone this dumb?
That's the equivalent of pulling relentlessly on a door that says push, and then just giving up on it. You know what the worst part of this is? The actress, the persona she cultivates, and the dialogue, they try their damnedest to give the player the impression that Carly is an adaptive and resourceful woman with a lot of street smarts. You hear her piece together Lee's story. She understands how keeping it private would probably be for the best. And you're like, damn, whew, this woman really knows her stuff. But this happens 10 minutes later, and it just treats her like she's an idiot.
I mean, just what the hell? No one is this stupid. And she's a reporter. She should be used to working with all kinds of recording equipment. Equipment that uses batteries when she takes it in the field.
I don't care if the developers were trying to make you choose Doug to save near the end, to give a reason not to choose the chick with the gun. They could have given her an actual relatable character flaw, not hammer us with just this idiocy of how stupid she can be. It's such a crazy contrast. I mean, look at these clips run back to back.
And the last thing we need is drama out there. You've got this little girl to take care of, and look, don't make me wrong on this.
I don't plan to.
Good. Because if this lasts longer than a few days, and you're a detriment to the group, then we'd have a problem.
You know that there are no batteries in that thing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah. No.
I can try to find some. Needs two.
Thanks. I wouldn't even really know what to look for.
Do those things jive? At all? It's simply mind-blowing. Have you ever met someone this clueless in real life? Imagine if you interacted with an adult who didn't have a clue about such a simple, widely regarded concept. Could you talk to them? Trust them? God forbid, have a relationship with them? Because if you can, you are a better person than me.
Oh, hey. What's up?
Oh, hey. What I'm trying to do is get this butter on this slice of bread. But I don't know how to do this. I mean, if I use my fingers, it's just gonna make a big mess. So I'm stumped. I don't know what to do.
You must have a butter knife in this house.
A butter knife? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, I think I've heard of that before. But, hey, would you be able to help me look for one? I'd really be thankful.
Yeah. Sure, man. I'll help you look.
Thanks. Maybe in here? What is this? Some kind of ice box? What's in... Oh, this looks familiar. I think I dip this into that butter, and then by swirling the...
This is a butter knife. That is a spoon.
Oh, you found it! Oh, wow! Oh, thank you so much. I wouldn't have even known what to look for. Oh, thank you.
Right. Anyway, enjoy your bread.
Thanks. Okay. Like that? What's wrong with this?
What are you doing?
I just can't figure this out. I mean, I got the right item, but when I try and do this, it just won't spread the...
Give me the knife. Give me the knife.
Okay. I can... Oh my God. You spread it. You fixed the knife. You fixed it. Oh, thank you so much.
The final incomprehensible scene all revolves around Kenny's fate. As I stated previously, these are very powerful, dramatic scenes. And they both showcase that, deep down, past the short temper and apparent self-serving behavior, Kenny does deeply care about those who support him. And the clever camera work and lighting do a great job at showing how insurmountable his situation is, while never being clear about what exactly happens. Especially in this alleyway scene, just listen to Kenny's shouts and screams. They're subdued, but still racked with some distress, so you figure he may have gotten bit, but aren't sure.
But how could he not get bit?
Okay, I can maybe get on board with this scene. Yeah, he's trapped in this warehouse building or whatever with no real way to get out the top, and he is definitely surrounded. But he has a couple of bullets in this scene. In fact, you can hear him firing a couple off. And given that Kenny's on the top floor, it's possible, however unlikely, that there are other exits or stairways. Maybe he can work his way down to the lower levels with some serious luck and desperation. Survival is still a long shot, but it's not shown what options he has or where the exits are, so this one's a little bit believable.
Go! I'll be...
What do you think about the alternative sequence? Ben falls off the roof, gets impaled, screams like an idiot, and gets walkers down the alley on both sides converging upon him. Look at this situation here. First of all, he locked the only exit between himself and Lee, which is dumb. I don't know why he does that. There's nothing but brick walls along both sides of the alleyway. There's no ladders, no dumpsters to crawl into, windows to jump through, and no manholes to escape down to the sewer. The alleyway is about 6 feet wide, and there's clearly over a dozen walkers on either side of him. Oh yeah, he has no bullets.
Do you have any bullets left? This has only got one left in it.
because he used the last one on Ben to put him out of his misery.
Kenny, please!
God damn it!
What miracle did Kenny pull out of his ass here? Don't forget, Kenny sucks at combat and defending himself. At least, that's how it's been portrayed. Watch him against Larry.
Knock this guy out.
Happily.
Jesus!
Oh, man.
Oh, one punch man right there, eh? Well, Larry's like a cement truck, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt here. How about Andy St. John?
Don't shut up!
Ooh, okay. How did that work out for you, Kenny? Yeah, that's it. Just run at that guy with a loaded rifle and traumatize your only child getting shot in the ribs. That's a great strategy. Watch him try and fight Lee.
Yeah, I do.
Any luck here? Wow.
Want to throw down again like back on the train? Because I fight better when I'm faced.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure you do.
Oh, here's your chance, Kenny. Save Lee from Molly. It's not even like he's agile and can parkour around the walls either. He's a 40-something, malnourished, heartbroken man who's also probably hungover from the bottle he drank last episode. How did he get out of this? And why didn't he just mercy kill Ben, unlock the gate, and rejoin Lee? Walkers are dumb. They won't unlock it and chase them up to the roof they were just on. Just do what has to be done with Ben and continue. You said this 2 minutes ago.
You don't just end it because it's hard. You stick it out, and you help the folks you care about.
Oh, sorry. Oh, please, just tell me how he got out of this. I need closure on it. It's bugged me for years, and I would love to hear your explanations. Finally, as powerful as the finale is, there's some logic in the lead-up that begs explanation. Lee and Clem evacuating the marsh house provides an effectively chilling atmosphere as they wade through the herd with guts all over them. But there's a few conveniences here that are ridiculous. First of all, why does this random, solitary walker simply show up right outside the door of the hotel room, as if it's a worker ringing for room service? I get that the stranger and Lee had just made a huge commotion and there was a gunshot and a fight and everything.
Die!
So then if that's what attracted it, why just this one? Where's the rest? Where's the other walkers that are likely in the adjoining rooms? And if it's one from outside, shouldn't a herd have followed it in? Secondly, Lee's fever renders him unconscious in the middle of the street with hundreds of walkers surrounding he and Clementine. The gut effect doesn't last long, and Clementine says afterwards,
"We're safe here. I locked us in. I thought I was helping by bringing you in here."
Really? She's an 8-year-old girl.
She's 8.
Wrong. She's 9.
Oh, damn, sorry, 9-year-old girl. Bending down and dragging Lee would undoubtedly give herself away. But nope, she's somehow dragged a nearly 200-pound muscled man into a jewelry store and then, on her own, shut this metal-grated door.
It was only a little open when I found it. I closed it to keep us safe.
So well, I might add, that the two of them together can't open it again. Yeah. I'm not buying this.
I'm glad it happened though, truly, because it gave Lee and Clementine some privacy to say their final goodbyes. I'm just saying that it really couldn't have happened.
Oh God, don't let them get to me!
Every fictional franchise has a character that many would consider tedious, annoying, or cowardly. You've got C-3PO in Star Wars, Kate Sith in Final Fantasy VII, and Navi from Ocarina of Time. But I'm here to tell you that Ben Paul from Telltale's The Walking Dead is 1,000,000 times worse than all of them put together. Ben sucks.
Sucks.
He's just the absolutely most dreadful, detrimental character that Lee's group was unfortunate enough to come across. He mopes.
Ben, if you could keep an eye on the girls and Duck, I'd appreciate it.
He whines.
How you doing, Ben?
I'm watching the girls and not working on a mega cool train. What do you think?
He's the ultimate coward.
Oh man, we are so screwed. Do you even have any idea how many of them are out there?
And then gets mad when Lee doesn't trust him with actual responsibility.
So you're just gonna leave me on the bench here?
No offense, Ben, but I'd feel safer if you stayed here.
How am I supposed to not take offense to that? What am I, a liability?
He doesn't have the smallest lick of common sense. Like here, when he first arrives at the motor inn, it erupts in an explosion of Kenny and Lily yelling at his group's inconvenience. It's Clementine who has to lead him away from the argument because she knows he won't be able to provide any constructive points to garner their trust.
Come over here and see what I drew.
What? No,
Just come on, okay?
You know, an 8-year-old needed to be the one to show Ben the proper course of action.
We later find out it was this teenage dirtbag who was slipping bandits supplies. And when Lee interrupts their latest shipment, that spells the end of the survivors' time at their fortified motel. And through all of this, check out how many times Ben denies any involvement.
Nobody was stealing anything! Nobody did anything! Look, just let me out. I didn't do it, but I don't like this.
Lee?
Just let me out of the car. I'll go. I didn't do it, but I'll go.
Ugh. It kinda calls back to the old police guy in the intro.
He was the worst one. He wouldn't stop going on about how he didn't do it. He just wailing back there. Says it wasn't him. Crying and snotting all over like a fussy baby on an airplane. Screaming bloody murder that it wasn't him. I think he actually believed it himself.
He single-handedly tears the entire group apart. Right after they make their escape in the RV, the accusations continue, and he loses any and all credibility, which Lily rightfully points out.
What do I have to do for you to trust me? I'll do anything!
You're pathetic. Look at you. Do we need any more evidence than this?
No! No, we don't!
Please, let's just get back in
That's
the RV.
not happening.
Carly, bless her kind heart, tries to defend him and ends up getting killed because Lily just can't take it anymore.
But you're just a scared little girl. Take a page from Lee's book and try helping somebody for once.
Now, what the is the problem?
That was unnecessary.
If you saved Doug, Lily is even more sure that it's Ben, takes aim at him, but Doug sacrifices himself.
The problem?
Ben! No!
A peaceful, gentle guy who actually provided tech skills and benefits like a working alarm system throws his life away to save this pathetic dweeb.
I'm not done.
That RV escape he caused creates more casualties. He indirectly gets Duck killed, which then leads to Katja killing herself out of grief, and then Kenny has to deal with all of this emotional trauma in the matter of 3 minutes, all because Ben was a thumb-sucking loser who wanted protection.
I just don't want to be on my own.
And then, hours later, he admits to Lee what it is he's done.
It was me. I was the one giving the bandits supplies.
What?
I don't blame Lee for saying this line right here.
I could kill you.
I...
Nobody can see us. I could toss you over right now and be done with it.
No! Lee, please!
Why shouldn't I?
I wouldn't do that myself, but I can't blame Lee for thinking it. His only job for most of the game is lookout. He never sees anything or gives any warning either. His train warning in Long Road Ahead only comes after he sees thousands of them on the horizon, when they're already less than half a mile away from the train. He's way up on top of the damn thing. How did he not see this sooner? Ben just gets worse the higher the stakes climb. The party gets ambushed upon their arrival in Savannah, and Clem and Ben are surrounded by walkers. Clementine desperately looks to him for help.
Oh, Ben, help her!
What do you think happens here? Yeah, even if you haven't played this, I bet you still know.
God damn it!
Yep. Did you expect anything else from this spineless prick?
He would rather save his own skinny ass than protect a second grader who has already done 432 more worthwhile things than he has in his life. And you know what comes of this?
No!
It forces Chuck, a pleasant, older, helpful, and selfless homeless man, to step up, impale this bastard with a shovel, and fight off a dozen or so walkers so that Clem can survive, and ultimately, he gets pinned down in the sewers, where Lee is unfortunate enough to find his disemboweled corpse.
You deserve better, old man.
Damn straight he did! Everyone in this game deserves better than this pencil-neck pansy.
I got a bad feeling about this.
No. Shut up, Ben. No, you don't get to quote Star Wars. It's bad enough that you share the nickname that Luke had for Obi-Wan. This is the ultimate disgrace right here.
And he says this just before his most infuriating blunder. At the Crawford School, which is a community infested with walkers, he hits his lowest and dumbest point in his futile existence. There's a door Lee desperately blocks off using a hatchet to help seal off the herd as Kenny and Bree escape from getting their supplies. Minutes later, when the group finally seems to have overcome the worst and have everything they need for getting a boat prepared, guess what Ben does?
Whoa!
Jeez.
Ben. You sent me out to look for something we can use to bust it open. I found this.
Ben? Where did you get that?
Yep, he removes the hatchet, and all of the walkers are given free rein to force Lee's group into a desperate escape, which is this armory door. A door that Ben had been assigned to an hour ago to get open.
See if you can use any of those tools we brought to get that armory door open. We might need to shoot our way out of here.
Just once, I'd like to do something useful, you know?
Which he also failed to do.
How you doing with that door?
Not so good.
Here, let me give you a hand.
I'm a nerd. I don't have that much common sense myself, but if I found myself in that scary situation and came across a normally open door that was barred haphazardly with a hatchet, I might think to myself, maybe there's a good reason that this hatchet is here.
What an asswipe! These monumental failures overshadow all of the other traits that already make Ben an insufferable wino.
Does he have any redeemable qualities? I'm trying. Well, he did carry a box.
Got a box of food here.
I'll carry it.
Oh yeah, there we go. And set her down. Oh yeah. Did you see that? Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal.
Carried a box that he stole from an innocent family, by the way. I mean, he just perpetuated the self-serving nature of the group that eventually led this psychotic man to sabotage them, which eventually led to Lee's death. But hey, we can't deny that he carried a box.
And finally, his magnum opus, Ben's ultimate saving grace, is found right here.
That light is blinking.
Push it.
Push it?
Why not? Here, look.
He pushes a button, which confirms that the train is operational. Lee, he was quivering in fear, scared that the train might, become a transformer that shot them all with machine guns and lasers. But Ben, that stud, he just shines through Lee's hesitation and pushes the damn thing himself. What a badass! Yeah.
Obviously, this sarcasm has fooled no one. What a deplorable sack of crap!
We're lucky there's no axe holding their door closed, huh?
Shut up.
Am I shocked that more people than not let him fall off of that balcony tower in episode 4 instead of pulling him to safety? No, but I am shocked that the difference isn't even higher. This has to be the absolute worst character that ever existed. He doesn't provide any benefit for anyone.
Telltale hit a home run with most of Season 1's cast. You can make plausible arguments for and against most of the supporting personalities, especially the Lily and Kenny power dynamic and differences. Even sub-characters, like Vernon and Bree, can be shown with a lot of nuance, empathy, and sympathy, depending on how Lee's interactions with them play out. But Ben? He's just awful.
I'm Sean Green.
Lee. This is Clementine.
This is probably the most minor of misses in The Walking Dead, but it does stand out as a surprisingly poorly thought out component that distracts from an otherwise expertly crafted narrative flow.
The initial episode introduces guest characters from the TV series, such as Herschel Green and Glenn, and they never really amount to anything other than cameo fan service. Examining Herschel first, it's neat to actually have an act play out right at his farm, and also lets players see Sean, a member of the family who is already disposed of in both the television and comic series. The game makes us think that there's going to be strict consequences and differences depending on Lee's choices, but this starts out miserably. Sean becomes endangered as Duck traps him under the tractor, and the game frames this as the first major choice you need to make. Do you save the more vulnerable kid who's in a less perilous position, or find a way to unpin Sean and save Herschel's family? It looks like this will veer Lee in favor of one or the other, but it handles this so poorly. If you choose to save Duck, the walkers break through, Sean dies, and Herschel drops some F-bombs telling you to never come back.
Get the out of here! Get out and never come back!
Tragic, but it makes sense. However, if you try and save Sean, Kenny just casually jogs over, saves Duck anyway.
I got you!
Lee stumbles around useless, the walkers break through, Sean dies, again, and Herschel drops some F-bombs telling you to never come back, again.
Get out and never come back!
This is the first big survival choice in the game. And damn, is it inconsequential?
It's a disservice to the much more impactful and emotional baggage that will follow Lee's future actions. So it's a shame that the game begins by inferring that nothing the player does is gonna matter anyway, especially when 5 minutes ago you and Sean talk about the outbreak, and Lee's opinion results in the game telling you Sean won't forget that.
Faster. Poor girl's brains in.
Whoa. I couldn't do that. I'm just glad we're getting this fence built.
Oh, Sean won't forget. He'll remember that your opinion differed for the whole 5 more minutes that he's alive. He's gonna remember that. Oh, be prepared for the consequences.
The only difference is that trying to save Sean results in him living for 10 extra seconds, telling Herschel that Lee tried to save him, and then he dies. Herschel gets less mad at Lee, but then still swears, drops the F-bombs, and tells everyone to screw off. And you never see Herschel again. So what's the point? Kenny, on the other hand, will be around all the way through Season 3. So if you don't help his kid, he holds you in contempt to start the game, and Lee has to really work hard to get back into Kenny's good graces afterwards. There's no benefit to saving Sean at all. What if the game took a wild detour, and if Herschel witnesses you trying to save Sean, he invites you to stay? Kenny and company just go their own way, while Lee and Clementine become farmhands and unite with a new cast of characters like Maggie, Otis, and Rick. Maybe Lee goes with Shane and Otis to get supplies to save Carl from the hunting accident. Okay, I know I'm getting too ambitious there, but man, it's not well done the way it's brought about here. Glenn, too, is feebly underutilized. You get the pizza delivery reference, which makes fans smile, but after that, it's just a small, isolated stealth combat puzzle sequence with Glenn, Lee, and Carly, wherein you dispatch a few walkers in order to save
Glenn's damsel in distress.
While the sequence is fine and showcases some fun puzzle solving, it has little to do with Glenn himself, and it also results in another character who offs herself regardless of whether or not you support the decision, again leading the player to think that everything's going to play out exactly the same anyway down the road. Once it's all done, he gets gas in his car, says he's leaving, and no matter if Lee says it's the wrong call or not, there he goes, off to Atlanta, never to be seen again. I love how the instructions on the title screen for the on-screen display tease the player into thinking Glenn's going to be a permanent member of the group or something. That's false advertising if I've ever seen it. The secondary characters in the first episode aren't much better. There's a guy named Chet, who appears with Sean if Lee and Clementine search for help in the daylight. And this guy, whoa, he's super important to the story. He talks about Mama's cooking.
I ain't never getting home to Mama at this rate.
He pushes a car with Lee, and he escapes to the farm in the truck. Yeah. I'm so glad I was able to save him so that his unseen family was able to serve him that meal. Oh, the game even tells us what the meal is.
Oh, it's hot dish night.
Did you see that unbelievable character arc? Oh man, that's a satisfying journey. Chet is the epitome of secondary characters. He's got his own name.
I'm Chet.
He knows Sean Green, the legend himself. Oh, man. Oh, however, if you wait until dark, you'll find out that Chet has been killed and is now a walker.
No! Not Chet! Oh, why did I wait until nighttime? His 2 lines of dialogue are so impactful!
I'm Chet.
I'm sorry, Sean. Chet was a good dude. One of the best.
I can't go on.
Thankfully, the rest of the game does a much better job at making you consider your choices more carefully. Like this scene here, where Lee has to choose between taking Clementine to the violent Crawford area or leaving her alone at the house with an infected Omi that could kick the bucket at any time. Molly gets attacked by walkers just before the escape, and if you screw up your shot, she's sent scrambling and missing, and it's very unclear what happened to her. Whereas, if Clementine's with you, she'll take the walker out herself.
Thanks.
It wasn't me!
Good going, kid. Nice shot. Thanks.
Molly joins you and gives you more of a heartfelt and honest goodbye at the episode's conclusion. So Telltale definitely honed their craft, but not everything was laid out in a fashion that rewards your differing tastes and choices. I am angered by this. It still pisses me off to this day. Lee survived several initial encounters with walkers while hobbling on a busted leg, imprisonment by cannibals, a near execution at an electric fence, a shootout with bandits, jumping on top of a moving train, invading an elementary school, and falling through rickety staircases as walkers poured in. And that epic moment, the inescapable death that Lee just couldn't overcome, is a random walker that's part of a trash heap. Really? It's just like a slap to Lee's face. Ugh. His death didn't occur because he fed his arm to a walker that was trying to latch its jaws onto Clementine. He didn't hold back an entire horde so that the entire rest of the group could get to safety and leap on a boat. He just picks up the walkie and gets ambushed by an otherwise silent and non-moving lurker who decided at that moment to make a surprise attack. Want to know the worst part? There's 2 different ways you can make this play out. Most players on their first run-through are immediately enthralled by Clem's walkie-talkie, which they hastily pick up and receive the lethal bite. That at least makes a bit of sense. But then, the game gives you a middle finger by suggesting, although it's completely bogus, that there is a way to avoid this. You can choose instead to examine this suspicious crap first, securing the area. But that also makes a walker jump out and ambush you. But none of that compares to just how stupid it is that the walker isn't attracted by the sound of that walkie. It was loud enough to attract Lee to the location. And walkers have been shown in the Walking Dead universe to have very keen senses of hearing.
Quietly, noise attracts these things.
That static should have been very interesting to this trash walker. He's just been chilling out, letting ants crawl all over him in the piece of the shade. He wants some stimulation. In fact, it's already been used in this exact form in episode 1. You shatter the glass, and the TVs make some static noises, and the whole undead population of Macon is there to listen to them.
Now's the time.
The game doesn't even follow its own logic, and because of that, Lee has to die, and it's just wretched. I'm not suggesting Lee shouldn't have died in the end. The game builds up through subtle foreshadowing moments that he is not long for this world.
And if something were to happen to you,
it won't.
If it were, you gotta prepare the girl.
But they could have come up with a much more heroic or dramatic end instead of this royal screw job. Worst moment in the entire game. And you know what happens next? The developers feed you this nugget of false hope. Episode 4 ends on such an alarming note, with no chance left for Lee. You're at your wit's end, trying to find the sweetest little girl in the world, with only hours to go before Lee can't physically go on any longer. But there appears to be salvation in an extremely gory, disturbing, and desperate amputation option. It's something that has been done in the Walking Dead TV show and in the comics, and it's something that's actually worked a few times. So now we're thinking, oh, the Telltale just wanted to scare us with that bite thing. Lee will live out his days as an amputee, and he and Clementine will bask in the sunlight as Kenny catches limitless fish as they sail along the Savannah riverside for all eternity. Without Ben, because he's been kicked out, if he's still alive. Yeah, sorry. I'm just still not over that yet. By the way, how many of you gamers had a big enough heart to keep him along, despite his idiocy? Did he just push you too far? Or do you truly believe there's still a place for everyone in this harsh, harsh world? There's no clear indication whether this works or not. I can tell you from playthrough experience that upon severing the arm, Lee doesn't get dizzy spells nearly as often, and seems to hold up better than if you choose to leave it attached. It's really cool, actually, how much effort went into this. If you leave it on, for example, Lee blacks out simply on the climb up the ladder right outside the room. And again in the attic. Whereas if you cut it off, he stays conscious, giving you the impression that you really can change his fate.
Except you can't.
He becomes just as sick and as weak by the last part of the game than he would have had you left the arm on. And that made millions of gamers everywhere equally sad and angry. This is the last episode, and Lee is front and center here, so they really could have at least made the differences show up vividly. It's choices like these which were common in the first episode. Things that you think will have a big impact, but actually have nothing of value that sours the experience retrospectively. I mean, sure, if you're a hardcore fan, you'd line up the dots and realize that by the time Lee slowly lumbers across town, goes back into the sewers, and enters that shelter again, the infection is already way too far gone. But not everyone was a huge Walking Dead fan upon playing this. This was the entry point for many people to the franchise. They had no idea that it was already too late, so by offering them this gruesome option, especially given how high risk it is, you'd think you'd have gotten more of an at least altered pathway to Lee's fate. To tease the player into thinking a choice might be able to save the guy who has been so endearing and not have it really have any effect whatsoever, that's weak sauce right there. Alas, we always need to watch him lose his strength and leave us after months of struggle and hardship. Lee, rest in peace.
The people in our lives will always be what's most important. And The Walking Dead isn't a story about zombies or walkers. It's a story about people.
The lengths they will go to love one another, save each other, and be together, which is always elevated above the other, more petty and harshly callous nature of mankind that also manifests amidst every shocking death or betrayal.
Who? It was Vernon. They were waiting for us and jumped us.
Or absolutely idiotic blunder. There's also many moments of beauty. I encourage you to revisit this game and enjoy it. Bask in its amazing art direction. Take in those picturesque farmyard scenes with incredible framing of trees, leaves, and wide-angle shots. And then let yourself feel the sorrow when that malnourished Walker boy looks dead-eyed into the sun streaming through his attic mansion, never to see any other sights or sounds again. Feel the stress of close-up walkers inches away from devouring the most precious relationship in gaming, and let the tears flow when you know that Lee definitively has no time left.
That's a lot to reflect on. Now that we've done our deep dive into the series, how well do you feel it's held up? Personally, I feel it stood the test of time wonderfully.
The hits don't fade with this one. I'm always excited to start up Season 1 again, happy that Lee is back and alive, and the build-up to his inevitable demise still chokes me up today. If you somehow haven't played through The Walking Dead yet, go download it now and get back to me on your favorite parts.
But that's all just my opinion. What hits did I miss? And what misses should I have hit? Please let me know in the comments, and please join me in the fall for the next season of Gaming Introspection. Thanks so much, gamers. We'll see you next time.